Breath of the Wild is a game about wanderlust, the drive to explore the world around you. The game guides you through a virtually endless cycle of spotting something that piques your interest, marching over, and getting rewarded in one way or another. But how does Breath of the Wild pull this off? It's not automatic. Just having a huge, dense world isn't enough. There are plenty of open world games that feel more like big hub worlds. LA Noire, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, Skyward Sword, There must be something else to this design, right? Today, we'll go over how Breath of the Wild's sightlines, terrain, gameplay loop, and Korok seeds help you fall into that cycle of exploration. Breath of the Wild's Hyrule is an enormous sprawling landscape. The world begs you to soak in your surroundings and to look far out into the distance. Even the game's marketing is mostly sweeping shots of Hyrule with Link looking to the horizon. This is Breath of the Wild's clearest break from the rest of the series, and its biggest selling point. The environmental designers turn an imposing vastness into something digestible through the way they use sightlines. The game has a bunch of tools to help you out, and the tutorial on the Great Plateau teaches the process the game wants you to use while exploring. After gaining the first rune ability, there is a brief tutorial where you spot and mark the 3 mandatory shrines on the plateau. You're being taught how to literally use the spotting tools, yes, but they're also silently showing off how the game designs its sightlines. Hyrule is a web of visual breadcrumbs. As you explore, you'll notice that almost no matter where you are in Hyrule, there are lots of landmarks that call out to the eager new explorer. Local ones like campsites, enemy hideouts, and shrines, and global ones like towers, mountaintops, and Hyrule Castle. And for most of these breadcrumbs, you're the one deciding to pursue them. Instead of a trillion waypoints already filled in like in an Ubisoft open world game, the Breath of the Wild map is sparse with only the topography filled out as you reach individual towers in every region. If you're not pursuing an active quest, you're setting out your own path as you look at the scenery and place your own map markers. Limiting the information on the map changes the player's role in exploration from mindlessly pursuing goals like a checklist to a much more active role in deciding what to do next. It makes the game feel more open-ended. So you have the urge to explore and locations to check out, but how does the game dictate the path you take? It's all in the terrain design. Hyrule's terrain is rugged. Mountains, hills, and canyons are everywhere. You could say that it's mostly just to emphasize the climbing, but there's more to it. According to the Zelda team during a talk at CEDEC, much of Hyrule's design implements what they call the triangle rule. There is a heavy use of triangular shapes throughout the terrain and architecture, whether it's towers, stables, fairy fountains, or bigger landmarks like Hyrule Castle, Death Mountain, or the Dueling Peaks. The team favored these shapes because they presented the player with a couple of options. Either go around the mountain, or climb it. Whatever choice the player makes, as they progress, what lies beyond the mountain is slowly revealed. It's all a part of Breath of the Wild's visual language to entice the player's curiosity. As mountainous as Breath of the Wild is, it does avoid making its locations feel too similar. Other open world games like Skyrim sometimes have difficulty distinguishing one area from another, but that's never a real issue here. Each region in Hyrule is just distinct enough from each other so it doesn't really blend together. The dragon on Mount Lanayru, the bone-like spires in Deep Akala and parts of Hyrule Ridge, the rigid form of the Gerudo Highlands, the smooth yet guardian-infested grasslands of central Hyrule. Triangulating your position is always easy even without a map. Mountains and distant landmarks like towers are perfect as long-term objectives as they're easy to spot and work towards. The towers, shrines, Death Mountain, Hyrule Castle, Satori Mountain, and even the guardian enemies all are visible from a distance. Thanks to the game's use of glowing lights, you can see the goal in any weather conditions, and you don't even need to place a map marker. The goal itself always beckons. Once you make it to the top of that mountain or tower, hopefully rich with newfound items, spirit orbs, and maybe a goofy story, it's on to the next goal. And the journey to that next goal will lead players to more distractions, more trials, and more stories to discover. Follow the lights and you'll have a good time, But if you need some help kickstarting your adventure, the main storyline can help you out. In the main quest of Breath of the Wild, you're supposed to go around conquering the 4 divine beasts, which is fine and all, but the point of it is not to provide an elaborate story campaign, 'cause there isn't one. Instead, there is so much more emphasis on the journey itself in Breath of the Wild than in any other 3D Zelda game. The overworlds of past 3D Zeldas show hints of what this style could become, but Breath of the Wild took it to a new level. The 4 divine beasts serve more as very rough suggestions, and you'll get to them, but you're really meant to get sidetracked. For many, what starts as, "Oh, look at that," will turn into an hour-long chain of little misadventures. And that's not an accident. It takes a lot of careful design work to make this happen. The key to keeping players interested in continuing that loop is to make sure that those misadventures feel worthwhile. Constant surprises and little distractions are at the core of Breath of the Wild's design. No matter where you are, there is always something worth finding. The rewards may be smaller consumables like weapons, arrows, food, materials, Korok seeds, or something more substantial like a piece of armor, an ancient shrine, or a tower. If something catches your eye, you can go after it. Breath of the Wild doesn't implement a Metroidvania-style design where you're blocked from certain locations by your ability set. You're almost always equipped to go after whatever you spot as you make your way through the world. Curiosity leads to success, and that success leads to more curiosity. So that kickstarts the exploration loop, but once the game grabs you, it also has to keep your interest. It's easy to lose interest in the loop. If you could figure out a best way to get to a shrine, or a best toolset to use, that would make the game a little more predictable, and a little more boring. Loot-driven games like Borderlands or Destiny can get around this with a constant drip of new and better items, but Breath of the Wild's item set is much smaller. Instead, the game uses a couple of tricks to take similar rewards and obstacles and make them feel a bit fresher. Each tool is more versatile than it appears at first glance, and they combine with other mechanics in unexpected ways. Metal weapons and items can conduct electricity and be used with magnesis. That can be dangerous sometimes, but it can also be used for solving puzzles. Torches and fire arrows can set tall grass on fire, which can damage enemies, or create an updraft to lift you into the sky, giving you an advantage in combat and exploration. Just about every tool has a little bit more to discover beyond what you first see, and if you're creative, a lot of them will get you out of a jam, in one way or another. Love it or hate it, weapon durability plays a big role in the exploration cycle, and much of the game's design would simply fall apart without it. If you could lock in a best loadout early, you lose a reason to experiment with new items. Without the need to experiment with new items, combat will get more routine. Your experiences will be less unique, and you might lose interest in the game faster. By making you cycle through your inventory, the game forces you to think a little harder before you use that good sword you found. Finding replacements for these items isn't hard, yet the hunger for more items is never totally satisfied. The downside of these design choices is that they can lead to some frustrations. If you figure out a great combination, it's annoying to lose the ability to use it. But that trade-off is in service to the greater good. The variety and the restrictions that the game places on how you explore the world drive the engine that keeps you exploring. So you're doing great, making some big plans, but while you travel, don't ignore the small details. They can pay off too. Korok seeds are the most obvious instance of rewarding the player's curiosity. The 900 Koroks hidden throughout Hyrule serve as a filler reward for players to find along the way to a bigger objective, like the Divine Beasts or the 120 Ancient Shrines. They aren't a high priority, but they're still valuable as they are needed to expand the limited space for weapons, shields, and bows. They never grab your attention like the major game objectives, but sparkling leaves, statues with fruit placed below, circles of lily pads, glaciers of ice, rock formations, tree stumps with pinwheels or large leaves, metal balls chained to wells and tree stumps, and any suspiciously placed rock can all hide a Korok seed. When you know what you're looking for, the seeds aren't tough to spot, but that's kind of the point. They are supposed to contrast with the rest of the world and raise your suspicion. Like the landmarks in the terrain, they help condition the player to pay attention to their surroundings, which once again feeds into that never-ending chain of curiosity. Lots of the Korok puzzle indicators heavily use one of the earliest lessons in graphic design, the Gestalt grouping principles. They're a psychological theory on how we associate things with each other visually, through similarity, proximity, closure, and continuation. The principles of similarity, proximity, and closure are all used in most of the Korok puzzles, and work together to catch the player's eye. Let's use a simple rock formation puzzle as an example. Here, the similarity in size, color, and shape of the rocks and their proximity to each other hints at a relationship between them. There's nothing in-game to tell you to fix it, but when you notice that something feels off here, you're rewarded for applying closure. This is done again in these twin sculptures. The proximity of the sculptures and similarity of the formation hint at their relationship. You can spot the difference between the two groups, apply closure, and get your prize. This may sound like a lot of words to describe something pretty obvious, but keep in mind, the game doesn't highlight the Korok puzzles very much. They aren't, usually, glowing lights or clear signs that you can see from a distance. You just have to keep your eyes peeled while you're out and about. They aren't there to be elaborate brain teasers either. They're just little aha moments that you stumble across. Getting rewarded for noticing things that just feel off is another mini reward loop, and those loops all add up in the long run to keep you exploring. Games focused on exploration are extremely tough to get right. Most other open world games have a fallback plan like a great story, a tight combat system, just something to pick up the slack. For Breath of the Wild to succeed as an exploration game, it had to get so many things right at once, without a toolset of emergent behaviors to tinker with, without drawing in players with its scenery, without a vast world hiding its details, or without its variety of mysteries, big and small. The game would not work. As one of the best exploration games of all time, Breath of the Wild is a wonderful sight to see.